there's no perfect marriage, right?
No.
And we're all broken, and we're trying to walk, or hopefully we're trying to walk as healed from that brokenness as possible, because the goal isn't to stay broken, it's to get healed and move forward, right? Welcome to the Care for Pastors podcast. We're glad you're here. Our vision is simple but powerful: to see pastoral families persevere in ministry, develop healthy churches, and lead in community transformation. This podcast exists to encourage you, challenge you, and provide practical resources along with real stories of hope to help you and your family thrive. Our heart is not just that you would survive ministry, but that you would prevail in your personal life, your family, and in your calling. So stay tuned for today's episode, hosted by Robbie Bolden. Welcome to the Care for Pastors podcast. I'm your host, Robbie Bolden, and I'm really glad you're joining us today. In this first episode of our conversation with Tami Jackson, we step into a story that is as honest as it is heavy and as painful as it is hopeful. It all began with a phone call. After 10 years of marriage, Tami reached the breaking point, carrying a secret from her childhood: sexual abuse she had never shared with anybody. She realized she couldn't keep living the way she had been. What followed was a moment of courage that would begin to uncover years of hidden pain, spiritual struggle, and the quiet ways trauma had shaped her marriage, her intimacy, and even her relationship with God. In today's episode, Tami takes us into that moment and everything that surrounded it. We talk about what it looked like to live on the coattails of someone else's faith, how unresolved trauma can silently impact a marriage for years, and why honesty, even when it's late and difficult, is the first step towards healing. We also walk through the real-life effects of abuse on intimacy, communication, and identity, topics that many couples struggle with but rarely talk about. Tami shares openly about the challenges she and her husband faced, the missteps along the way, and the tension between performance-based faith and genuine relationship with Christ. This conversation isn't polished or easy, but it's real. And it's a reminder that healing doesn't begin when everything is fixed. It begins when we finally tell the truth. So lean in and let's begin this journey with Tami Jackson. Well, Tami Jackson, welcome to the Care for Pastors podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah?
Glad to be here.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We're so excited that you're here today, and we wanted to have you on today because you have a very unique story, but that's not uncommon. And I think what's unique about it is a lot of people are not as open and honest as you are about where you've come from and where God has taken you. And so today I'd like to just have you share with the audience today your story, and I think I want to pick up where you made a phone call to Rob, your husband, your late husband, and I know that's part of your story, so we're going to get into that. But you made a call to Rob one day, and tell us about that call.
Okay.
And how you got there.
Okay. My husband was a student and also employed at a university, and we had been married about 10 years, and we had 3 children at the time, and he was at work, and I was just at home. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was very grateful to be able to do that, and he was at work, and I had been struggling for quite some time with a situation that happened when I was a child, and not really realizing how it affected me or what was happening in my life was not the cause. That didn't cause it, but it had a part in what I was dealing with. And so I called my husband at work. The Lord started just really working in my life probably 5 years before I called him, and I was really struggling spiritually. I had floated on the coattails of my parents, my church, my Christian school that I went to, the ministry where I met Rob, eventually Rob's coattails. I knew I was a believer, but I didn't own my own relationship with Christ. And I think I was the only one who knew that at the time. And I thought I was the only one who knew that at the time. And so eventually, after struggling with it for so long, I couldn't struggle. I couldn't do it anymore. So I called my husband, and he was at work, and he was actually in a meeting with the founder and president of the university that he worked at, and for his job. And so I called him, and he looked at his phone, and he told his boss that, hey, this is my wife, I need to take it, if that's okay. And his boss said, absolutely. So he answered, and I said, honey, I need you to come home if you can. I just need to talk to you about something. And
Wow.
That was really unfair of me. I should have been a little more specific. But I just couldn't at that point. That's all I could get out. And his boss graciously said, absolutely, go home. And
Yes,
so
Tami?
yes.
Let me ask you a question. What led you to make that phone call? Because you'd been living with this for a while. Why was that day special?
You know, I wish I could answer specifically, except to say that the Lord continued to, I guess, convict me of, you've got to be honest. You have to be honest. It had affected our marriage in more ways than one. And I, you know, I can't say that it wasn't a bad marriage. It just wasn't as good as it could be because
Right.
of me not being honest and
Okay.
basically living in a lie and
Right.
afraid to, and not because of my husband, but just because of myself, afraid to even talk about it. So, and I had never talked about it with anyone ever, not one person. It was just all inside of me.
Right.
And I think because it had stewed for so long and so many years, until I got married, I didn't really think about it. I just put it in the back of my head. And so then when I got married and I saw that it started to affect our marriage in many ways and build in affecting our marriage. And then because it affected my relationship with Christ as well, I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. And my husband was in school to be a pastor.
Right.
And so I knew that I couldn't live like that. I had to, for one thing, it was selfish. I didn't want to feel the way I felt anymore. It was just more than I could handle. And then unselfishly, it wasn't fair to my family, my husband, my children, because it was affecting me in every possible way, emotionally and mentally and spiritually and all the ways, physically. So he came home, and I was downstairs. All of our children were in school at the time, and I was downstairs in our basement, and he came down, and I just said, I just have something to tell you. And he said, well, okay, let's sit down. And so he sat down, and he said, let's pray first. And so he prayed with me. And then I just told him, I said, listen, when I was between 8 and I think 10 or 12 years old, I don't even remember the age exactly. But a family member, not my immediate family, not my dad, my brothers, but I would say immediate family and my dad and my brothers. A family member had sexually molested me during those times. And I said, you know, I have never told anybody this. I've never talked to anybody else about it. Nobody knows but me and now you. And I said, it has affected my life spiritually. I am not who you think I am spiritually. I have not owned my relationship with Christ. It is not my relationship. It is everybody else's around me that I have literally floated on their coattails.
Right.
And I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And so he was very understanding. He was shocked. He asked me a lot of questions. Why hadn't I told anybody? And how long has this been going on? How long have you thought about it? How long, all the, everything. How has it affected our marriage? And it affected our marriage in communication. It affected our marriage in having a spiritual a connection spiritually, really, because he was growing, but I was only using his growth. I wasn't really growing. And intimately, it affected our marriage because there's a lot of things that go on, when you are sexually molested in your own mind. And even though you try to block that out, and I do think I blocked a lot of it out, and I still probably have some things that I haven't even brought to the forefront. I am in therapy. I have been in therapy for quite some time, a Christian counselor, and that has helped tremendously. But I think that, from that point on, I noticed a difference in our marriage as far as communication. He did ask me why I hadn't told anybody, and I honestly can't answer specifically why, except, it was my fault. I should have never gone to the home when I was called to go. There was just, if I would have told somebody, it might not happen, but if I do tell somebody, they won't believe me because this person is, an upstanding person, and, it will affect our whole family. And I had lots of family that lived around me and when I was young. And so I just chose to put it in the background and bury it, and not say anything.
So Tami, you held this secret a long time.
I did.
And so, and you grew up in a Christian home, right?
Yes. Very, very, very strong Christian home.
Yeah, your mom and dad, they would have never suspected this, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
And so, as you carried that secret, as a little kid, what did that do to you?
When I really think about what it did to me, I was very guarded for a while, but then I gained weight. It affected my eating, my weight. It affected how I had relationships with guys, with boyfriends. I don't know. It affected my relationship, obviously, with the person. And I had another family member that also said that it happened to them, but nobody believed them because she was, she wasn't a troublemaker in our family, but she just was different than the rest of our family. It was an in-law. And so she was different than the rest of our family. And so when she accused or said that this happened and that, she didn't use the same verbiage that I would have used to describe the person, but people got upset with her. So when I saw that as an adult, her saying that, and the response and the reaction of other family members, including my parents, I just said, well, there's no way I'm going to say anything. And probably if I would have, it would have helped her. But I was young, and I didn't, when I look back on it, but I had no idea. All I could think of was, well, if they don't believe her, they're not going to believe me. And so I just held it in.
Right. So when you had this conversation with Rob, what was his response?
Very, very understanding. At first, shock, because we'd been married 10 years. Shock from the confession of the being molested, but also he said, I could tell spiritually that you were not growing, you were not, but that was between me and the Lord, and he didn't berate me at all. and actually said, it makes sense now. Some of the things make sense. And I'm thankful that you told me, because, it keeps me now from thinking, why is that? Or why not this? Or how come that? So he was gentle with me.
Yeah.
When I did it.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So you and Rob, at the time you had 3 kids, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you think back on that season, what do you think would have been helpful for you to do differently that would have brought healing sooner?
Oh, gosh. I think probably, the main thing would have been to deal with it, like to bring it out and deal with it sooner than I did. Actually, Rob and I were in a ministry, which we met in a ministry, and we went through premarital counseling. And one of the things that should have happened during that would have been me to tell him. And I think it would have made a huge difference in the 10 years. So I think if I would have, I guess, I don't know if it's confessed is the right word, or maybe revealed.
Disclose. Yeah,
Yes,
revealed,
if
yeah.
I would have revealed that to him sooner, I think. And I think if, I still don't know if telling my parents would have helped. I don't know. And I told him I will never tell them, because by the time I had revealed that to him, my parents were getting up in age, and it would have broken my dad's heart. It would have broken my mom's heart, and I was not willing to do that to them.
Yeah. Was this person who did this to you still alive at that time?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So, and I don't, that was probably another reason why I chose not to. I mean, he was already gone. What good would it have done?
Right.
Was my thinking. He's, and I convinced myself that I had forgiven him. I wasn't angry at him. I just looked at him, and I hate this phrase, but I just looked at him as a dirty old man who took advantage of a child. When I confessed it to Rob, that was my thinking at that point. And even my thinking when Rob and I got engaged, and when it was like, he's not going to control my life. I refuse to let him control my life. So he's just a dirty old man. I don't want anything to do with dealing with this. I just want to forget it, that it ever happened.
Yeah.
But you really can't.
So I'm sure, and you've mentioned this, that abuse tainted your view of men.
Oh yeah.
And sex and marriage and all that. When it comes to looking back on that, how did you process intimacy with Rob? Because obviously, and I know this is a delicate subject, so you can just tell me
Yeah.
what's taboo or not. But one of the things I'm trying to do is help our audience to see how this, especially those of us who've never experienced what you've experienced, to have empathy towards those who have. And so how did this molestation affect the way you saw Rob, how you were intimate with him, and even intimate with your Heavenly Father?
I was very, well, first of all, let me just say I was raised very Victorian.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I knew very little. The way that I knew about intimacy was through premarital counseling and reading Tim and Beverly LaHaye's book, The Act of Marriage, which scared me to death.
It scared a lot of couples.
Yes, scared me to death. And if you will add on to somebody who's not been molested, who it scared, then somebody who has been, and it just piled on. I think in my mind, the expectations that were not put on me, that I put on myself because of being molested and then reading that book and not knowing anything else. My mom never talked to me about anything. when it came to when you get married, this is going to happen and this is what you have to do. You know, those kind of things. She just didn't. I was raised very Victorian. So I only knew what I read and what had happened to me. And so I was very frightened, very frightened. And I will say our wedding night was not a great success, if you get if you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
And there was a lot of tears. And that probably would have been the best time to say, this is why.
Okay. This may be uncomfortable, but I think
no, it's fine.
we should.
I'm kind of an open book.
Okay, yeah, I know you are. Talk to us about that wedding night. And I'm not talking about details. I'm just talking about
Right.
What happened that led to tears?
A very unsuccessful intimate time with my husband.
Yeah, you were unable to consummate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you
I
both
would say-
built up. Go ahead.
I would say to fully consummate. Yes.
Yeah. So you guys have been building up to this time, getting married. You Rob and you were both eager. Y'all were in a really healthy Christian ministry organization that was, very did emphasize doing things God's way.
Right.
Say.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And so you guys were like, all right, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
You've waited a while for this.
Well, the first time we ever kissed or held hands was at our wedding.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when you compare to what's going on in our world today, right?
Yeah. And not that either of us felt like that was wrong.
Right.
It was the guidelines of where we were, and we left that ministry two months before marriage, and we're together a month before our wedding, all the time. But we figured, hey, we've made it this far. Let's just wait to see if we can, and so we did.
So the day after your wedding night, what's going on in your mind?
Failure.
Yeah.
Is this going to affect how he feels about me? Even though I will say he assured me the night of our wedding, it's okay, it's fine. We'll continue this. We'll work on this. He was not upset. He was not mad. I'm sure he was disappointed, but he was very understanding. So but it doesn't matter because in my head, I was a failure as a wife. I mean, here I am supposed to be giving myself to my husband, and we've been waiting on this, and we've built up to this, like you said, and then it didn't work.
Yeah.
No.
So the reason I'm asking about this is because, in a lot of clients that we deal with here at Care for Pastors, we deal with a lot of couples who have intimacy issues. And much like your circumstance, it's through abuse, and yet they hold it in. They don't tell anybody. They keep it to themselves. And then maybe on their wedding night, nothing goes as prepared or planned. And so it leads to a lot of confusion, hurt, and anger.
Yes.
And the reason why I want to talk about this for a few minutes is because your story should be an opportunity for us to think about, hey, maybe there's an issue in my wife or my husband's past that needs to be addressed or dealt with, right?
Right.
So, and like you said, that night probably would have been the night to say, hey, this happened, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think so. Yeah. Well, really, I think it should have happened. Now that hindsight is 2020, it should have happened before that. It should have happened really in our premarital counseling.
Yeah. And many couples who are frustrated sexually have really got to come to understand that there's a deeper issue going on in your spouse's life that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Rather than being angry and frustrated, we need to be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think so.
yeah.
And I don't think that as our marriage went on, I don't know that Rob was ever curious about why it didn't happen on our wedding night. And even, well, go ahead if you were going to say anything, because I
No,
was
go
going to
ahead.
go further. Well, even further into our marriage, I still was very guarded with intimacy. There was, and I don't know how else to say this, so we may have to edit this out.
It's
But
okay.
I wasn't willing to explore.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to do. I was very. This is how you do it. This is what we're going to do. I can't do other things. I can't go any further than this.
Right.
Very unfair to my husband. And he, again, it wasn't like weird stuff at all. It was just.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that was unfair. But he would question me, and I would just be. I just can't.
Right.
I just can't.
Okay.
For 10 years. I never gave him a reason, and I'm sure it frustrated him to death. Oh, I know it did. I mean, he would say, "This is frustrating. I don't understand." And I would never, it would just be, I can't. It's just who I am. It's just who I am. I can't do it.
Did you ever in that time think back that this had anything to do with the molestation?
Not for a while.
Not for a
Not
while.
for a while. Probably not the first 5 to 8 years of our marriage, no.
Yeah, you just thought this was your natural bent.
Well, I was
Towards
raised
sex.
Victorian, so I thought this
Yeah.
was the way it was supposed to be, and I think that's another thing that we do our children a disservice. Like my girls are not even married, but they know what they need to know, because I wasn't going to do to them what my parents did, what my mom did to me. I can't say my dad, because my dad, it was in the late 70s, early 80s, and men didn't get involved in things like that at that point. So,
Right.
yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you had this conversation with Rob. What was the steps that y'all took afterwards to move forward?
Well, I told him I can't live like this, and I am going to start having a relationship with Christ. I'm going to start building my own relationship with Christ by doing these steps. One of the things was spending time in the Word more consistently. It was a checklist for me. I went to a Christian high school, so my Bible was a textbook. And then the university we were at was also a Christian university, and so because of the Christian university, it was a textbook.
Right.
And so it wasn't ever a personal, from high school on, it was never a personal book to me.
Right.
Plus, I think I was a little angry at God because of what had happened to me, but didn't really realize I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was angry that it happened, but I continued to push it to the back of my mind. So my relationship with Christ was affected because he was a man, and so I told Rob, I want to grow in my walk with Christ for me. So these are the things I'm going to do. And big mistake for me, I don't know about everybody, but for me, big mistake was making myself accountable to him, and making sure that making sure that I read my Bible, that I did these things that I said I was going to do, get involved in a Bible study, do my Bible study notebook or workbook or whatever it was.
How was that a mistake?
Because I didn't look at him. I looked at him as my husband, but I also looked at him as the person who was going to keep me accountable. And what if I messed up? If I didn't do it, then I have to answer to my husband. Well, I already had a negative view of men as a whole, not knowing that it would carry over, or not admitting, I guess, that it would carry over, or maybe not knowing that it would carry over to my husband. And so it was like he almost became my dad,
Right.
keep it, and I
Was he like
I needed him.
it It was like
Go ahead.
he was your warden.
Yes, he needed to be my husband, but he wasn't. He was my husband, but he was also my warden husband.
Yeah.
And I made myself accountable to him in things that I should have never, because that affected our marriage as well. Where if I could have made myself accountable to my Bible study teacher, if I could have made myself accountable for my weight to a friend instead of weighing in front of my husband every week, and making
Wow.
sure that, yeah. So
Okay, so let's time out.
yeah, there's a lot. I'm sorry.
No. I cannot imagine my wife saying, "Okay, come with me to the scale, and let's weigh." First of all, that's intimidating with anybody, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
And so, because that really made your relationship based on, or it seemed to make it based on your performance, rather than just who you are in Christ.
I felt like I had to perform
Yes.
to be accepted
Right.
because of all these things that had happened to me, but I didn't put two and two together.
Right. Right. So when did that come together for you? When did you just start to put that together?
Ooh, I really am embarrassed to say this.
Don't be embarrassed. We're all friends here.
My children were grown, except for my last child. When I really, because they were grown and mostly out of my home or responsible for themselves, whether they were in my home or not. I had downtime, I guess, more to say, to think about other things rather than making sure my children's needs were met, even though I felt it, but I blamed me for it. Like, well, this is dumb. Why you're the one who said you want to be accountable. What's wrong with you? Why can't you be accountable? Why do you feel like you feel being accountable? And then when my children were grown, it was like, this isn't right. I shouldn't feel the way I feel toward my husband. I mean, I was angry at him, and I was, but he was doing what I asked him to do. So I can't blame him because I'm the one who asked. But when I asked to not be accountable to him anymore, that's when, and I don't know how to say this any other way, when it hit the fan, because he didn't like that at all.
Right.
You're going back on your word. You just don't want to be accountable. You want to be able to do whatever you want to do, whether it's right or wrong, and not have, And I said, I'll be accountable to other people. That's not what you ask. You're going back on your word. So it made it very difficult for me to get out of, and I never did, really. I never got out of it. I rebelled and said I'm not doing it. Was it rebellion, though? I don't know. I just said I'm not doing it anymore because this is affecting me.
Right.
And I don't like who I am.
Right. So your relationship was based upon intimacy that was a struggle, accountability that
didn't work.
Didn't work. It's not grace-filled, right?
No.
No, it's mostly, hey, let's see how well you've done today in your works.
Yeah.
And so
and performance based.
And performance based, absolutely. So when did all that change? Because and look, because there's been a lot of dysfunction in your background as far as how you saw yourself, sexuality, intimacy, and then performing. So, and I want to go back to you and Rob having that conversation where, and then again, it sounds like there were some missteps there about how to be kept accountable. So how did you two get past all this? Or did you?
I don't really, and I don't, please don't misunderstand me when I say this. I would not have traded our marriage for anybody else's marriage in the whole world. Right. Our ministry was very effective. We had, the churches that we served in, that he was the pastor in, and the school that he worked at, where he was also in spiritual leadership, very successful. And when I say successful, that sounds like out, and I don't mean to make ministry sound like it's a success or a failure. I know ministry is ministry, but he was highly, highly respected.
Right.
So, and I respect him. I still respect him. And again, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that it ever stopped. I can't. Rob was not a person to give up. Like if he committed to something, he was going to do it. Come hell or high water, he was going to do it. Right. So that was what he was going to do for me, and it was for me. That was what his mindset was. I'm right. doing this for you, even though I said this is not for me. This is hurting me. This is not, But his mind was not there. His mind was right. not. This is not for you. Mm-hmm. So I would say probably. I mean. It got less tense in our home. Probably after our daughter, who's 23 now, was born, and it got less tense, and he became a little more. He mellowed out. He came from he went to the military academy. His grandfather was in the Army, and he spent a lot of time with his grandfather, who had a huge influence on him, who was also German, and very fully German. And so Rob had all of that in his background. So it carried over into our marriage. Yeah. And so he wasn't militant. I would never say he was militant, but he was very disciplined.
He ran a platoon.
He was very disciplined in his life, and it carried over into our family.
Right. I had a dad who was a sergeant in the Army, so he ran the house a little bit like that.
Yeah, Rob went to the Air Force Academy. Yeah. He was very disciplined, and he was always disciplined. Even before that, his mom said he used to line up his matchbox cars in a line according to color. So he's always been. That's who he was. Yeah. So, and I'm not no, and oh gosh, no. He was a type AAAA, and I'm a very, very, I don't know if there's a Z type, but that's me.
You're funny. That's awesome. So, getting back to your conversation with Rob and the steps that you took afterwards. You both went to counseling, is that correct?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because we didn't need it.
We could
work it. Yeah, we could work it out ourselves. And,
right.
And he wasn't anti-counseling for the majority. If you need it, go get it. And he did say to me at one point, and I just don't remember what point it was, but at one point he said, you can go if you feel like you need to. So I did go talk to, not a counselor, but a lady at the university that we were at, who I respected highly, and told her what I told her what I saw as I don't know, truth or what was happening with me. And of course she gave me advice, and I went home and shared with Rob what she had said, and of course he didn't agree, because he didn't agree, because it was some things that needed to change, and he didn't see that they needed to change. And so I never went back after that, because why? So.
Right. Now, I hear your struggle to honor your husband and to be transparent, and so I appreciate that. It really says a lot about you. But all of us in this audience understand that there's no perfect marriage, right?
No.
And we're all broken, and we're trying to walk, or hopefully we're trying to walk as healed from that brokenness as possible, because the goal isn't to stay broken, it's to get healed and move forward, right?
It is.
So how would you say you guys healed and moved forward? As we close out today's episode, we've only really begun to uncover the weight of what happens when pain is buried instead of brought into the light. Tami's story shows us how unaddressed trauma can quietly shape a marriage, affect intimacy, communication, and even our relationship with God. We've talked about the cost of keeping secrets, the struggle of trying to perform spiritually, and no matter how well intended, accountability can sometimes do more harm than good when not rooted in grace and understanding. But the question still remains, what does real healing actually look like? How do you move forward when the truth is finally out? And what does it take to rebuild intimacy, trust, and a genuine relationship with Christ after years of hidden pain? Come back next week to find out the answer. You won't want to miss part 2 of this conversation as we continue to walk with Tami through her journey towards healing, freedom, and restoration. Until then, remember, you don't have to carry what you've been hiding. Take care of your soul, because the health of your ministry starts with the health of your heart. Thanks for joining us on the Careful Pastors Podcast.